Hello, and welcome to the Inner Bully Beatdown podcast. I am your host, Brittany Fowler. I am also the author of the book, Inner Bully Beatdown. I am also a breakthrough mentor and motivational speaker. So if you would like me to come speak to you, please visit my website at brittanyfowler.com. Enjoy this podcast. Hello, and welcome to episode 11 of the Inner Bully Beatdown podcast. Of course, as always, I am your host, Brittany Fowler. Welcome today. How has your week been? Gosh, I am traveling right now, so if the sound is a little different, it's because I'm in a hotel room getting my podcast up and ready for you guys. So I am in the awesome state of Massachusetts, and I just had some bomb seafood. You guys are lucky out here on the East Coast. You're always able to eat seafood. Being from Utah, seafood is like, you can get sushi and that's about it. That tastes good. Anyway, today I'm going to talk to you about my journey through losing and releasing 50 pounds of fat in the past year. Let me start off by saying, y'all know that when I was younger, I struggled with weight. I struggled with obesity. I have been especially obese since I had my first child 7 years ago. I was in the 250 range when I started my weight loss journey. And it's not like I didn't try before. I am a person who loves to be active. I love working out. I love eating healthy. I just really love eating food. And I love to celebrate with food. I love to be social with food. I love to emotionally eat with food. Food is a buddy. Food is a friend. And when I started this journey, it was more like food was more my friend than my body was my friend. For a lot of years, I always saw my body as something separate from me. And I don't know if you can relate to that, but literally, I would picture my body as like a completely different entity. Then it wasn't connected to my heart. It wasn't connected to my spirit. It wasn't connected to my brain. Like, it just wasn't a part of me because I had this idea that it was broken. It was no good. It never performed for me how I wanted it to perform. It was never the weight I wanted it to be. So it was bad and in the corner. And it was always my body's fault that it was big. But it wasn't until I actually took accountability for what I was putting into my body where things began to change. And that all happened with a very difficult conversation I had with my husband. He said, and it hurt at the time, but it was the truth. He said, every time you stick something sweet or something, deliciously awesome into your mouth, you are being selfish. And I was like, how dare you call me selfish? I'm just eating because it's, there. But I was really irate at the time. But he got me thinking. Every time I ate something that wasn't healthy for my body, I was being selfish. I wasn't nourishing my body. I wasn't able to let my body be the size that it wanted to be because my brain, my taste buds were wanting something different. And that was the beginning of understanding that I could no longer have my blinders on. I could no longer do what I was doing because it was affecting my relationships. And of course, being that big, I didn't feel like I was sexy. I didn't feel like I could wear what I wanted to. Going into your closet when you're almost 100 pounds overweight, it's like, okay, what muumuu am I going to wear today? I got really heavy into like LuLaRoe and buying their Carly's and anyway, just these really cute big dresses, and because they'd be comfortable. Like, I stopped wearing pants, like skirts were my MO because, you've been there. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you of where I was at. And before I really started getting determined, right, there were these test trials of, okay, what am I going to do this next month to lose weight? And so I got into like Beachbody and doing B2 mindset, and I got into doing 30-day shred, and I got in all these different workout programs, and I would meal prep, and I would, and that sort of worked. A few pounds would come off, inches would come off, but it was so intense. Like I couldn't keep up with it. And, of course, super slow, and I know that weight loss, can take time, but I'm talking in 3 months, I would lose 3 pounds, and like that was just way too slow for me. And I was miserable. My knees hurt. My wedding ring didn't fit. My back hurt, especially on my right hip. I injured it in college, playing softball, and I have a lot of issues with my right hip. And so it was hurting so much, and I couldn't go running. I would try and jog, and I just felt like a beached whale trying to roll off the hill. Like I couldn't run. And I remember thinking, what did I do to myself? I was a college athlete. Like I've done triathlons. Like I am an active person, and I can't run around the block. In my brain, I was this really healthy, strong person, but my outside was not reflecting what was on the inside. My outside was actually reflecting my hate for my body. It wasn't reflecting what I thought I used to be. And anyway, so I was at the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop experimenting. I'm going to stop giving my body a timeline where it has to fit a certain weight loss goal or it's broken. I'm going to release all emotion from the outcome. When you release emotion from the outcome, you actually allow whatever is supposed to happen. When we set the bars so high, and it has to be this way and only this way, well, everything else is failure. And if we just say, okay, well, I would like this end goal, and how I get there is actually not as important as just getting there. It gives you the motivation to be flexible. It gives you the motivation to have bad days, but have more good days than bad days. Like it allows you to be human. And I think a lot of times when we go for goals, we're so focused on this or nothing, this or I'm a failure. And it's not that way, because failure is a journey. Failure is a course correction. Failure at one thing doesn't mean that a good thing doesn't come out of it. So for instance, when I met my husband, I was on the search for a spouse. I was 21. I hadn't had a boyfriend in a long time because I was so busy with school and softball. And I mean, I would go out on dates periodically, but it wasn't anything stable. And I said, you know what, if I'm really serious about this, then I need to put myself out there and I'm going to go out on 2 dates a week. And at that time, I had no prospects. I was not going out with anybody. Like I was surfing the internet, trying to internet date guys who were hundreds of miles away, which was actually keeping me more single. So I decided at that moment, I'm going to go on 2 dates a week, and I'm going to make that happen. And so I started asking guys out. And then I started looking for boys in my area on the internet to go out with, like just to get in that mindset of I'm dating for a spouse. I'm trying to find a boyfriend, I'm trying to find all this. And so one afternoon I went on a date with a guy who was nice enough, but it was a date that I couldn't wait to get away from. We had gone and rode go-karts, like the really fast go-karts. It was super fun. And then we went to a movie, but then he tried to make out with me at the movie, and I just was not feeling the vibe. And so the date ended at 9:30, and I'm like, great. So it was a Saturday night, and I was like, I still want to go have fun. So I went to what they call the softball house at Dixie State, and where basically the soccer and the softball girls who have full ride scholarships plus housing stay. So I went there to hang out with my friends, and there was a guy there, and I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. And so we decided we were going to go to a late night movie, 12:30 in the morning movie. And by this time I'm dead tired, but I'm kind of crushing on this guy, which is super embarrassing to say now. I'll tell you why in a minute. But I just have to laugh. So I was totally crushing on him. We watched the movie, and then we go back to the volleyball house, which is the house next door, and to the softball soccer house. It's where the volleyball players stay. Anyway, and we are hanging out. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. I am dead tired, but he has not given me his number yet. Like, I know his name. I know, like, things about him, but I'm like, I really want to see him again. And so he falls asleep, and I'm like, oh crap, I just want to go home. And so I went down out to his car, and I wrote my number on a piece of paper, and I put it on his seat, and I said, call me. And so funny, he ended up calling me a couple days later, and he's like, how did you get your number in my car? And I was like, well, I just kind of opened the door and put it in. He's like, no, I always lock my car. I was like, well, it wasn't locked. He's like, that's impossible. I always lock my car. It was locked the next morning. And I thought that was so weird. Come to find out, after about a week of talking with him, I figure out he's 2 years younger than me, which was a deal breaker because I was 21, he was 19. I was like, no, thanks. However, we still stayed friends. And I actually invited him to a party I was having like a couple weeks, like about a week and a half later, where he invited a friend, and that friend invited who is my now husband. And I had no idea. When my husband walked in, it was not love at first sight. We definitely had to grow on each other. He thought I was a nerd, and I thought he was ridiculous for coming to a party and not eating anything. And anyway, that's another story for another day. But the point is I had to be in the mindset of wanting things to change. And not only be in the mindset, but doing the actions of having something to change. And because I wanted to get married, I had to date more. And because you're never going to find a spouse without dating. And so, all right. So as I'm getting in this mindset of losing weight, and I'm not being attached to the outcome, I'm only committed to the habit of losing weight, I begin to see results. And not only that, but I stopped listening to other people. I stopped posting before pictures. I stopped relying on the praise other people will give me when I lose weight, right? I started really a healing journey of accepting myself, seeing my body and my spirit and my soul as one person, forgiving my former self for harboring such hard feelings against my body that is amazing and does wonderful things for me. And without it, I would obviously be dead. But I started on this journey, and it was scary because I said, what if I fail? What if I fail this time? What if this doesn't work like I think it's going to? And I had to just hold on to hope instead of fear. I had to hold on to the hope that it could work. I could do it. If I could do one good day of eating right, doing what I was supposed to be doing, that, getting enough water, going to bed early, like if I could do one day, then I could do it again. And if I could do one day, then I could do it again. If I did 3 days, I could do it again and again and again. And it got to the point where, do you know what makes successful people successful? Daily actions that become habits. Successful daily actions that become habits, and over time, guess what? It creates success. And that is a blueprint for any type of goal that you are going to set. It's those daily habits. And so I began to move away from fear, move away from the pain of my body, and into this hope, this space of feeling like, oh my gosh, it's working. Oh my gosh, I could actually reach my goal of losing 80 pounds. And I haven't felt hope like that in years regarding my body. It's always been, whenever I've looked at my body, whenever I've stepped on the scale, whenever I've gotten dressed, whenever I've just wanted to spit on my body. Like it's been so disgusting and yucky. Look at this. And oh my gosh, like it's something I would, like I said, I would put in the corner and I would just shame it into changing. And that didn't work. And it wasn't about the diet. It wasn't about the type of diet. It wasn't about, success comes with a goal in mind, B, daily habits, C, recommitting to those habits every day. And it's really easy to commit to a habit. It's really easy to commit to weight loss when you are miserable, when you are down in the dumps and you want to run away from that misery, right? You're running away from that pain. And it's really easy to stay motivated. But what happens when, oh my gosh, things are going well, like I'm sleeping better, I'm not in as much pain. Oh my gosh, I can fit into my size 14 pants. Like, what happens when things are pretty easy going? What then? It is harder to stay committed when things are easy going. It's harder to find the reason to paddle a boat down a river when you're just being carried by the current. But when you're going through rapids and you're going through tough spots where you're trying to get to the edge and fighting the current, right? When you're going through those hard times, it's easy to paddle. But when you're just floating down the river, going even keel, it's hard to get the motivation to paddle. That's the same thing with weight loss. So again, the daily habits, are important, but waking up and recommitting to your goals for that day is what keeps you on track, is what keeps you moving towards your goal. It's not motivation. Your motivation is going to ebb and it's going to flow and it's going to increase and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I have no motivation. Give me that hamburger. But at the same time, you have to keep your vision in mind. You have to keep the end goal in mind. For me, it's being 170. That is the weight that I was when I was married. I want to fit into my wedding dress on our anniversary this year. We're celebrating 12 years of marriage this year. Yay! But for me, it's like having that end goal is great, but I need baby steps along the way. I need that constant commitment, like wearing my wedding ring. And I have, in each size, I have a particular piece of clothing, right? That's my goal piece of clothing. And once I reach it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I fit in this. Anyway, so that's been super awesome. Another thing that's been great about losing this weight is that it only took about 20 pounds, 15 to 20 pounds for my husband to just be like, oh my gosh, I want you. He's never been critical of my weight. He's never told me that I wasn't attractive. But there was, some lackluster times in our love relationship because I would push him away. I would push him away because I didn't feel like I was desirable and therefore undesired. And therefore, I manifested that in our relationship. I would become a witch and I would be grouchy and I would push him away because I believed that I was undesirable. And so what did he see me as? Not desirable, because I would manifest that. And it wasn't until I started gaining the hope and being like, oh my gosh, I look better. And it was super attractive for him. Not that I was my goal weight, but that I had gained my body image confidence back, that made him way more attractive to me. So it was like a shift in my mindset, a shift in my energy, a shift in my daily actions dramatically improved my relationship with my spouse. It dramatically improved the relationship with my clothes. And what's been interesting is as I am letting go of some of my favorite fat pieces, I am enjoying seeing others enjoy them. And it was really hard for me to be like, oh my gosh, these are some of my favorite pieces. Like, should I let them go in case I get bigger? And I thought, really? You're gonna hang on to them in case you're ever 80 to 100 pounds heavier than you want to be? Like, that's kind of psycho. So I had to convince myself, I had to do the Marie Kondo, right? Like, thank you for serving me all this time. I've loved wearing you. It's been great, but you get to go to somebody else to enjoy now. So I Marie Kondoed that shiz. It was awesome. And it felt really good. And some of the pieces I sold because I felt like they were worth money, and they were. I made about $100 off of some of my favorite pieces. So I got some money out of it, right? Paying for my diet food. What else have I learned from losing 50 pounds? I have learned that praise is a form of conditional love. And I kind of talked about this last week, but I realized that at first I was doing it to run away from pain, like losing weight to run away from pain. And then when I got really kind of pain-free and I'm, not running away from pain, I'm more moving towards pleasure, I really wanted people to see how far I had come. I wanted them to see and praise me and love me for it. And I had to understand that I don't want that. Like I had to decide, well, you know what? I don't need that to make me feel good about myself. I don't need that praise because I know that that's conditional love. The people that notice my body and how it looks now and comment on it, I am so humbled when they actually notice because I'm not expecting them to. When you run around with these expectations, look at me, I'm so great. And if they, if they don't measure up to your expectations, I would get salty, right? I'd just be, oh, you don't notice me. How could you, blah, blah, blah. And you just pigeonhole them as being, someone who doesn't understand that they need to love women for who they are and blah, 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 all that crap. Anyway, so losing 50 pounds is liberating. It not only do I feel good, I feel like I look good, and I'm proud of myself. I still have more pounds to go, but with each pound, I say, thank you for leaving. And then I just get focused on the next pound because 80 pounds is a lot of pounds to lose. It is, it's a lot of pounds, but people who lose a lot of weight will tell you. I learned this from one of my dear friends, Brielle Kennington. She lost a lot of weight a few years ago and has always been my motivational idol. If she could do it, I could do it. And she would say, I didn't lose 80 pounds. I lost 1 pound at a time. And that is exactly true. If my mindset is 1 pound at a time, I physically, when I see the scale in the morning, I say, okay, what's the next pound? What's the next pound? And I'll picture that next lowest pound in my head. So if I'm 205, then the next pound is 204. So I'll focus on that next number, 204. Like if I see the clock and it says 204, I say, oh my gosh, 204. Yes, I'm focusing on that next pound instead of being like, oh my gosh, I hate that I'm 205. Ugh. And attaching this misery to this weight, right? I'm attaching excitement to the next weight. And that is powerful. When you have a vision and you have a goal and you're working on those baby steps, you better pour in that positive emotion. You better use the power within you of intention when you set those goals and to drive you and motivate you forward. Because what you think and what you pour emotion into, guess what? Expands. What you think expands. So if you're thinking about the past or where you are now, with your weight and how miserable you are and blah, 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 guess what? You're going to stay there a lot longer. That's when I plateau. That's when I go, gosh, why can't I get past 213? Guys, I was at 213 for 3 weeks. Why can't I get past 213, 213, 213, 213? My brain went, oh, you want to stay 213? Okay, 213. And finally I had to realize what I was doing and go, no. I had to picture the next pound, which was 212, 211, 210, 209, 208, 207, 206, 205. I would have to picture it in my mind because I could not get over that hump of 213. So, huge learning experience. I love the way I feel. Tell me, if you have lost weight out there, tell me what you've learned because there are so many golden nuggets that come from accomplishing, climbing over this hill of losing weight. You learn so much about yourself. You learn about what works for you. You learn about what doesn't work for you. You learn about your relationships. You learn about love. You learn about all sorts of things when you tackle your weight loss goal. So I want to hear from you. So Brittany at BrittanyDelivers.com, right? BRITTANY at BrittanyDelivers.com. And I want to hear from you. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. From the bottom of my heart to yours, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you can't get enough or need more support with terminating your inner bullies, please join us on Facebook at Inner Bully Beatdown Podcast. We hope to see you there. Have a great day.